If you're like me and grew up in Canada during the 90s, Much Music played a big role in your life. My next guest was likely someone you saw on that channel regularly, whether it was throwing to the latest music video by the Backstreet Boys or interviewing the likes of Noel Gallagher from Oasis.
I guess first of all, an old quote from '96.
Go on.
You were probably joking, as always.
Go on.
But in 1996, you said something to the effect of, you know what, maybe it might end in 5 years.
Right.
And here we are 5 years later.
Yeah.
There's no slowing down.
No. Well, I apologise for that. I don't know. I'm quite a moody character, so I was probably in a bad mood that day.
That really does sound like a Noel Gallagher interview. Bill Welychka has done a lot over his 3-decade-plus career. The longtime media personality has just re-released the second edition of his memoir, A Happy Has-Been, Exciting Times and Lessons Learned by one of Canada's foremost entertainment journalists. Bill joins us now from Kingston. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. I love listening to Noel.
Yeah.
I think people forget that the Gallaghers are very, very funny. I love them. I'm glad they're back.
Yeah. I think we're all happy that they're back, and I'm knocking on wood right now because I do have tickets for later in August. So let's see if they make it to August. But hey, all things seem to be pointing in the right direction. Bill, you were on Ontario Morning the first time you released A Happy Has-Been back in 2023. What made you want to release a second edition?
Well, thanks for talking to me then. Thanks for talking to me now. Actually, it was the book tours based on that book and meeting so many people that had comments about what Much Music meant to them and growing up and what it meant to Canadian pop culture and to the artists that I talked to. And they were bringing up a whole lot of stories that I had forgot about and interviews that I had forgotten about. And so the second edition has added a lot more experiences with artists and stories, and a great big long afterword that talks about meeting these people and everything that has happened since that book's release, which is a lot of things have happened. And just the idea of meeting all these people and the importance of nostalgia. I don't like to live in the past, but it kept coming up a lot, of course. You know, there's that Much Music doc that toured. There was the stamp. There was this new rollout of Much Music interviews on YouTube that they've established, and people love to talk about the past, and I'm okay with that.
And I want to get into a conversation about nostalgia with you in just a few moments, but I was wondering if you can share with us maybe one of those new stories that you've included in this book.
I spent the day with Nickelback. I forget what year it was, but, you know, they were at the Junos in Ottawa, and we were talking about, you know, Chad's influences, and he talked about when he was a teenager going to see Metallica in Edmonton and then going to a bar after, and then he saw Lars, and from across the bar, their eyes locked, and Lars hoisted up his Heineken and cheered him and cheered Chad, and Chad says, that moment changed my life. I knew I wanted to be a rock star. And I was telling the story to Metallica. I spent the day with them in Detroit about, a month or so later. And I was telling Lars that story. And Lars says, man, I got to tell James to stop cheering people in bars. I guess I'm not a really big fan of Nickelback. I like Nickelback, but, you know, and it was just like this pattern of events that I thought, okay, I forgot about that. Someone reminded me about that clip. And so, yeah, that whole story is in there, and a lot of other fun stories.
That's hilarious. So the whole idea of Nickelback and Metallica sharing a moment like that, and then hearing Lars maybe have a little bit of a regret after is quite fascinating. But you mentioned nostalgia, and again, the timing of this conversation is interesting. You know, you just mentioned the fact that Much Music has just launched a Much Rewind YouTube channel, and that interview clip that we aired with you and Noel Gallagher is from that YouTube channel. And again, that clip is going viral because Oasis is having a moment right now, as you mentioned earlier. But I wanted to ask you, Bill, like, what is it about Much Music that keeps having this nostalgia moment?
From what I've heard from parents, you know, talking to parents at these in-stores and book signings, you know, they're explaining to their kid, who's 13, maybe 12, 13, 14, what they did when they would go home from school to watch music videos and watch interviews and performances. And the kids were like, well, why didn't he just put it on YouTube? And they're like, we didn't have YouTube. We watched much music. It was appointment television. And it's funny because, full circle at a book signing, I met a 14-year-old who was a huge Marilyn Manson fan who watched one of my interviews he found on YouTube and thought, hey, this is a cool opportunity to, meet this guy who met my idol and interviewed him. And it's so funny because when I think back about why I wanted to leave entertainment journalism, it was all about that 10-second soundbite. I'd come back with a 40-minute David Bowie interview and be asked, okay, is this going to be an hour special? And I'd say, yeah. My boss would say, oh, I don't know. Is it going to get ratings? And I'm thinking, okay, at this point, I'm done. I'm done. Is David Bowie going to get ratings? And so those 10-second sound bites sort of became the norm on entertainment TV shows, on red carpets. Who are you wearing? I don't care. I like meaty interviews. I like to let interviews breathe. I like to get into stuff, good stuff, compelling stuff. Whether you're a fan or not, you're going to watch. And so what those people have done, Bell Media, is roll out this Much Rewind YouTube channel and posting unedited, complete interviews. So it's a 180 from, what the standard was, which was the 15-second soundbite, to now watching these interviews.
Yeah, it's a 180 from what that producer told you, right? After you came back with that long-form David Bowie piece. And again, I kind of feel like we're going back to that now. Like a lot of podcasts, especially video podcasts, are focused on long-form interviews with artists, with creators, and really digging deep into the topics that, pretty much what you were doing back in the 90s. So do you think we're seeing elements of Much Music coming back in other forms now?
I think so, and I think that library that CTV Bell inherited from Chum when they took over the building and took over all the platforms and interests, they're sitting on a gold mine of interviews. And I'll get an email every now and then from someone that says, oh, I saw your, Marilyn Manson interview on some streaming platform with a Marilyn Manson documentary. So these productions are utilizing that library now. And I am glad because, I'd rather, have it aired, some of these old classic interviews, than it sitting on a shelf or on a computer hard drive somewhere, not being seen. And, like I said, there's a gold mine that dates back to the late 70s with the new music and Daniel Richler.
Of course.
J.D. Roberts and Jeannie Becker.
Bill, unfortunately, we do have to leave it there because we're running out of time. But that was Bill Welychka, who is a long-term media personality known for his time on Much Music. His latest edition of A Happy Has-Been, Exciting Times and Lessons Learned by one of Canada's foremost entertainment journalists, is out now. We'll be right back.